Siyam, fasting, has many advantages. One of them, it prevents you from doing sin. And one says, how is that? If I don't eat, if I don't drink, how would that prevent me from doing sin? You can ask yourself this question: why am I fasting? What is making me fast? Who knows if I'm fasting or not? No one. See, all the different forms of worship, it's doing things. Praying, you have to pray, you have to do it. Performing zakah, you have to pay. Performing Hajj, you have to go and do your pilgrimage. Okay, what about fasting? What do? You don't do a thing. It's the opposite, it's a negative thing. You don't eat, you don't drink, you don't have sexual intercourse, you don't do certain things that nullifies your fast. But you don't do. So people, now if I look at you, there's a very big possibility that some of you would be fasting. Do I know that? Does he carry a sign saying, hey guys, I'm fasting? No, he doesn't. So it's something between you and Allah, which means that you are refraining from things that are halal. Why don't you drink water? I can't, I'm fasting. Why is it haram? No, drinking is permissible. No one can survive without drinking. But why aren't you doing it now? Because I'm fasting. So you are doing this for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. So if you're preventing yourself, you're refraining from halal, things that are permissible, would you dare do things that are not permissible? Would you sin? Definitely not. That is why the rate of sin goes way down during the month of Ramadan. Because people are closer to Allah Azza wa Jal. They intentionally stop drinking and eating permissible things. Therefore, they know that they should not do bad things, sins that may get them away from Allah Almighty. There is a hadith reported by Al-Bukhari. As you know, Al-Bukhari is the most authentic book on earth after the Quran, the Holy Quran. The Prophet ﷺ says in this hadith, if one does not abandon falsehood and the action in accordance with it and foolishness, Allah has no need that he should abandon his food and drink. If you don't stop doing bad things, why does Allah want you to stop eating and drinking? This is a sign that refraining, eating and drinking is the lowest level. But there are high levels that you should always keep your mind on. I know a lot of people that stop doing bad things while they're fasting. Nevertheless, when they break their fast, they go 180 degrees to where they stopped. They would go on and do sins from Maghrib to Al-Fajr. They say, it's night time, it's party time, it's Ramadan time. So yes, I did my course. I did it during the morning. So nighttime is my time, daytime is Allah's time. This is wrong. This is the wrong concept of fasting Ramadan. Fasting also makes you aware of Allah Azza wa Jal watching you. So Allah Almighty is watching you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that is why you're fasting. If I go to the toilet and I would like to perform ablution, why do you think I stop from drinking water? Nobody's looking at me, but I know that Allah is watching me, yarhamukumullah. And that is why I cease and I stop drinking and or eating. There are many advantages behind fasting, yet I think it's enough for today's dars, not to load you with so much information. If any of you have questions, please don't hesitate, and we will try to answer the questions we know the answers to. There are questions that we don't have the answers to, so go ahead. Does anybody have a question? Yes? Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. During ablution, am I allowed to get water inside my mouth while I'm fasting?
Okay. If a person is fasting, definitely he has to pray. And if you have to pray, you have to perform ablution. And one of the obligatory acts of ablution is to turn the water into your mouth. Now, is turning the water, madmada, is turning the water in your mouth considered as drinking? No. Is it? No, it's not drinking. Therefore, you can do this, and actually you must do this. But you have to be careful not to swallow anything. And this, if you do it normally, you're not going to swallow anything. But if you fill your mouth with a large amount of water, eventually something is going to leak and you're going to swallow some of it, and this is not acceptable. Any other question?
Is the fasting of a person who commits sins after sunset, after breaking fasting at sunset, sound or not?
In the scenario which I stated a while earlier, there are kinds and types of people that would fast during the daytime, abide by the rules, pray in the mosque, but immediately after sunset, after they break their fast, they go back to their normal life. They probably go to discotheques, nightclubs, perform adultery, call their girlfriends or whatever. Now, it's a separate thing. Fasting is separate than other sins. So your fasting is acceptable, but to what degree? Here you have to ask yourself, is it 100% acceptable? Is it 20%? Is it 5%? Is it 1%? As a Muslim, it is acceptable, and you are still within the boundaries of Islam because you are fulfilling Allah's orders and you are fasting the month of Ramadan. But the sins, they deduct, they reduce the reward that you get for that day you fasted. But still, your fast is acceptable. But I can't imagine, how would a person fast a whole day, refrain from eating, drinking, smoking, all the things that nullifies fasting, and yet he calls his girlfriend for a date or to go to the discotheque, and he books a table in this restaurant or does this or that, knowing intentionally that he is going to perform this sin, major sin, and Allah Azza wa Jalla is watching him. I cannot understand this, but unfortunately there are people who are so far away from Allah Azza wa Jalla, they think that it's just do's and don'ts. And I did my part, that let me take whatever is mine. I think this answers your question. Any more questions?
Sometimes I watch some brothers and sisters observe fasting even before the month of Ramadan. Like they observe every Monday and Tuesday, and some other days immediately after Ramadan, such as the first days of Shawwal or something. And you said fasting is prescribed. And the meanwhile, I watch others who don't observe fasting on these days.
Mm-hmm.
Is there obligatory and non-obligatory fasting in Islam?
There are 4 types of fasting in Islam. There is the obligatory fasting. And I don't think we have the time for that, but I will elaborate on it a little bit later, inshallah. There is the obligatory fasting. And there is the preferable fasting, which is mustahab, such as fasting the Mondays, Thursdays, 3 days of the month, Arafah, Ashura, and so on. And there is the unpreferable fasting, which is makruh. One should not do this, but it's not forbidden. And there is the 4th and last type, which is the forbidden fasting. If you do it, it's not acceptable and you're sinful. Such as fasting the days of Eid. The Eid, the celebration where we celebrate Eid al-Fitr, which is the first day after the end of Ramadan, or the Eid of al-Adha, which is the 10th day of the month of the Hijjah. If someone fasts that day, it's not acceptable, and he's sinful. If somebody, well, we will elaborate on this, inshallah, on a later stage. But there are 4 types of fasting. Only the obligatory type is fasting Ramadan. Nothing else than Ramadan is obligatory from Allah Azza wa Jal, except those you do as expiation, such as if you kill someone, you have to fast 2 consecutive months. If somebody has intercourse with his wife during the day of Ramadan while they're both fasting, or one of them is fasting, the expiation is that they should fast 2 consecutive, 2 continuous months. And this is obligatory, but it is not part of the pillars of Islam. Ramadan is the only pillar of Islam. I think this is all the time we have for today's dars, and until we meet next time, fi amanillah, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.